Perhaps the sentiments contained in the following pages are not yet sufficiently fashionable to procure them general favor. A long habit of not thinking a thing wrong gives it a superficial appearance of being right.
The binding chains of the Constitution were written so that it didn't matter who was in power. In fact, they were written to protect us and our rights from those who hold power with good intentions. We are not governed by saints or angels.
That all men are created equal, that they have been endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Since the beginning of recorded history and before, man has passed what he has learned from one generation to the next. As the knowledge of mankind has increased, what are the qualities of a man's thought or idea which makes it worth keeping? Epistemology is the study of the nature and scope of knowledge. How much one knows, its validity and relevance to a situation can be very important. In extreme conditions such as survival or warfare, knowledge may determine whether an individual lives or dies. In the absence of absolute knowledge, humans generally rely on their beliefs. The law acknowledges that beliefs are important. If an intruder invades a home and someone believes their life is threatened, they may kill the intruder without fear of repercussion from the law. Let's examine epistemology a little more closely. Let's take a specific example, and for this example I would like to select Richard Feynman. One of the most challenging fields of physics is quantum field theory. In 1965, Richard Feynman won a Nobel Prize for his work in quantum electrodynamics. Depending on which group of scientists you ask, many would consider the theory of quantum mechanics the most successful theory ever put forth. In his endeavor to understand quantum mechanics, Richard Feynman selected the scientific method for examination. This method is considered the most widely accepted methodologies in use today. Who better than Richard Feynman himself to explain the scientific method? In the following lecture outtake, Feynman explains to his students in his own words his application of the scientific method when discovering new laws in quantum mechanics.
Now I'm going to discuss how we would look for a new law. In general, we look for a new law by the following process. First, we guess it. Then we don't laugh, that's really true. Then we compute the consequences of the guess to see what, if this is right, if this law that we guessed is right, we see what it would imply, and then we compare those computation results to nature, or we say compared to experiment or experience, compare it directly with observation to see if it works. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. In that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. That's all there is to it. It's therefore not unscientific to take a guess, although many people who are not in science think it is. For instance, I had a conversation about flying saucers some years ago with laymen. Because I'm scientific, I know all about flying saucers. So I said, I don't think there are flying saucers. So my antagonist said, is it impossible that there are flying saucers? Can you prove that it's impossible? I said, no, I can't prove it's impossible. It's just very unlikely. That, they say, you are very unscientific. If you can't prove it impossible, then how can you say it's likely, that it's unlikely? Well, that's the way, that is scientific. It is scientific only to say what's more likely and less likely, and not to be proving all the time possible and impossible. To define what I mean, I finally said to him, listen, I mean that from my knowledge of the world that I see around me, I think that it is much more likely that the reports of flying saucers are the result of the known irrational characteristics of terrestrial intelligence rather than the unknown rational efforts of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Expanding on Richard Feynman's comments regarding the scientific method, exploring the unknown is a guess. Knowledge, experience, and relevant context affect the facts which are considered, and the theory or models which are formed to explain the reason or causes for the observed facts. In an experiment, which measurements are taken, their accuracy or error margin is important. Just like in a court case, what information is introduced as evidence, the veracity and accuracy of testimony can all go in determining the relevant facts for a case. In a court case, testimony or evidence may be introduced that does not go to the bearing or determination of the verdict. So it is in an experiment. Data may be recorded that has no correlation with the phenomenon under investigation. So what does the growth of knowledge, epistemology, and the scientific method have to do with freedom in America? The growth of knowledge affects what people know, and therefore their theories or beliefs about what is not known. Epistemology attempts to know the scope and nature of that knowledge in determining the nature of something as to whether it is truthful, false, belief, or fact, or both. And the scientific method is a method that can be used in an attempt to understand the relevance and the veracity of a given body of knowledge as it applies to a theory or belief. In exploring theories or beliefs, just like in a court case, the restriction of freedom to fully investigate can lead to incomplete truth. Incomplete truth can lead to an erroneous conclusion or verdict. The incorrect verdict can lead to unjust loss of freedom for an individual. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth is more important than just in court cases. Truth and freedom are inseparable. Whether you believe man is a machine or design of the divine, he has limitations. What he knows and how he processes the information can affect the conclusions. The conclusions or beliefs can affect a human being's behavior. As man has attempted to reverse engineer the mind through psychology and physiology, it has led to some powerful tools. In psychological warfare and information operations, an individual targeted for control is limited through the use of sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, and the associated memories of past knowledge or experience in relevant context to the given situation, emotions associated with that past experience. That past experience can color and taint the ability to process that new information properly. The question arises, when will these abilities to control a human's input through the restriction of truth and the ability to manipulate or shape the perspectives lead to the loss of freedoms in America? And when will the intent of a collective to control an individual with these techniques to get them to do illegal or immoral actions in itself not be recognized as conspiracy with criminal intent? In my coming videos, I will attempt to give concrete examples